In the shadowy alleys of religious history, where forbidden texts whisper secrets to those who dare listen, there lies a tome known as the Book of Enoch. Name it if you dare, but understand that its very mention unsettles the foundations of what we think we know. Its omission from the canonical Bible is not just an exclusion, but an act of deliberate erasure, cloaked in theological intrigue and ecclesiastical power plays. Unraveling the mystery of Enoch is like peering into an abyss from which souls either do not return, or if they do, they return changed. Its absence tells us as much about the darkness within human belief as its presence ever could. When one delves into the enigma of the Book of Enoch and its conspicuous absence from the canonical Bible, one must brace for a journey where the line between light and shadow blurs unsettlingly. Picture this. Enoch, a patriarch shrouded in antiquity, walks with God yet remains a ghostly figure, haunting the margins of sacred texts. His book, veiled in whispers and speculation, stands testament to a theological landscape riddled with secrets. The narrative begins in the ancient Judaic tradition, a time when sacred texts proliferated with divine ambition and apocalyptic fervor. The Book of Enoch found favor among early Jewish sects, particularly the Essenes, who revered its prophetic visions and celestial drama. It offered a glimpse into a cosmology populated not only by angels and watchers, but by the very mechanisms of divine judgment itself. However, it was perhaps this very fervor that sowed the seeds of its demise. Early Christianity, still embroiled in its existential struggle for identity, cast its discerning gaze upon texts that would crystallize its doctrines. The charismatic allure of Enoch's apocalyptic prophecies threatened the nascent orthodoxy, a narrative too wild, too unruly, populated by creatures and visions that defied the meticulous order the early church sought to impose. In the shadows of these ecclesiastical corridors, decisions were made, secretive, irrevocable. The Book of Enoch was left to languish in the periphery, its absence a conscious design rather than an unintentional oversight. From a theological standpoint, the content of Enoch was a powder keg waiting to ignite. It chronicled the rebellious insurgence of angels, their unholy couplings with humans, and the ensuing birth of giants. This was a cosmic tale of fall and redemption writ large, too large, perhaps, for a canon seeking unity and doctrinal purity. The Christian Church feared fragmentation, and nothing caused division quite like the vast warehouse of human imagination when left unchecked. Scholars, in their pursuit of historical authenticity, excavate the intentions of those early gatekeepers. They argue that the omission of the Book of Enoch was a calculated maneuver, one that underscored the shifting sands of theological priorities. Maintaining the careful balance of doctrine required excising narratives that pulled the faithful away from the emerging dogma. Enoch's revelatory content was a seductive threat, a siren's call leading towards theological chaos, away from the light of orthodoxy. In essence, the exclusion of the Book of Enoch is a capsule of the human condition. It mirrors our propensity to shun what we cannot control or understand. It is a narrative suspended in time, echoing the eternal conflict between curiosity and comfort, between venturing into the unknown and clinging to the safety of established belief. To speak of Enoch, to peer into the shadow of his text, is to challenge the sacred and unearth the unsettling question of why some stories are chosen to illuminate while others are condemned to darkness. In the heavy silence of a forgotten library, beneath the weight of neglected tomes and stories whispering of ancient times, lies the elusive enigma of the Book of Enoch. To understand why it was disowned by the curated sacred texts of the Bible is to traverse the twilight expanse between sanctioned sanctity and uncertain shadows. During the nascent formation of the biblical canon, a gathering of religious authorities sought to delineate eternal truths from temporal diversions. Enoch, with its vivid allegories and celestial voyages, presented itself as a raw nerve, a text pulsating with untamed imaginations that defied the neat boundaries of burgeoning orthodoxy. Historically, the exclusion of Enoch could be traced to a confluence of ecclesiastical pragmatism and theological anxiety. The book chronicled angels descending from the heavens, transfixed by the daughters of men, and resulting in a lineage of giants, the Nephilim. To the early Jewish and Christian authorities, such narratives were a volatile brew. They threatened to blur the divinely etched lines between sacred and profane, humanity and the divine. Enoch was not merely a story, it was an insurgency against the conceptual safety of a celestial order. Moreover, Enoch's apocalyptic visions presented a cosmic theater that offered an unsettling multiplicity of realms, contrasting with the streamlined eschatology that the early church aimed to solidify. Its incendiary messages could incite a fervor that might unravel the precarious fabric of doctrinal unity. Deciding what stories form the foundations of faith was an act of controlling the chaos of human curiosity. The custodians of divine word, influenced by the political and social contours of their era, opted for narratives that harmonized with established doctrines. Enoch was willed into silence, its rightful place in the canon denied, like a wayward star cast adrift in the vastness of not knowing. Enoch's exclusion was thus less of a dismissal and more a suppression of what might be too audacious or troubling for the ecclesiastical comfort of the time. It sought the light of understanding, only to be eclipsed by the shadow of conformity, a testament to the relentless human quest to reconcile the known with the unseen. In the dusk-laden corridors of religious history, certain tomes linger, cloaked in an air of mystery, their absence echoing louder than their presence ever could. The Book of Enoch, an enigmatic tome of celestial visions and prehistoric whispers, remains one such absent witness. Attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, a figure whose life-bridge spans the terrestrial and the divine, this ancient Hebrew text teeters on the precipice of forgotten memory. To understand why the Book of Enoch was exiled from the biblical canon is to delve into the esoteric dance of power, tradition, and revelation. In the ancient synagogues and nascent churches, the book found eager eyes, its narratives a feast for minds hungry for the divine's intimate secrets. It presented revelations of such grandeur that they threatened to rend the established theological fabric, interviews with angelic beings, insights into heavenly architecture, and visions of apocalypse too stark for bare contemplation. Yet its very audacity may have sealed its fate. The ecclesiastical guardians of orthodoxy, wary of its untamed spirit, may have deemed Enoch's revelations too wild, perhaps even dangerous, a Pandora's box of divine knowledge, beckoning to be opened, yet perilous in its possibilities. Anointed with the voice of prophecy and the visions of cosmic truth, Enoch mingled with matters often left to the shadows, and so, with a quiet shroud of deliberate omission, Enoch was pushed beyond the pale. It was a strategic retrenchment to preserve doctrinal cohesion, a bid to maintain the fragile status quo against the tremors of challenging inquiry. The book was seen less as a denial and more as a suppression, a heavy silence bearing down upon the cacophony of unorthodoxy. Its exclusion was a deliberate eclipse, a measure to keep the luminescent glow of Enoch's revelations from dazzling or disorienting the faithful, too deeply entrenched in the reassuring known. Intrinsically, its banishment reflected a subtle theological contention, a struggle against that relentless human urge to illuminate the unseeable, to walk the fine line where knowledge borders on the divine. It speaks to a fear of the undomesticated, of mysteries that unravel too swiftly, too brightly, to be harnessed by the dogmas of dust and law. And so, the Book of Enoch remains, a wayward star adrift, a chilling reminder of what can never truly be effaced in humanity's endless pursuit of the unfathomable. The exclusion of the Book of Enoch from the biblical canon was not merely a matter of ecclesiastical decree or doctrinal nuance. It was a reflection of a deeper, more intricate theological struggle. There, on the shadowed periphery of accepted scripture, The Book of Enoch stands as testament to the perennial tension between revelation and mystery, a tension that plays out in the dimly lit corridors of human discovery and divine veiling. To understand this banishment, one must first appreciate the book's audacious narrative. It sketches a cosmos populated with visions of angels and primordial giants, a celestial tapestry not easy to tame within the rigid confines of established doctrine. Its myths and messages sail dangerously close to the sun, threatening to melt the carefully constructed wax wings of orthodoxy. The visions contained within the Book of Enoch offered glimpses of a universe where knowledge teetered on the precipice, where humanity's hunger for divine illumination was fed with fire, not meek candlelight. The ecclesiastical powers safeguarding the sanctity and unity of their sanctioned texts viewed Enoch's bold revelations as an untamed landscape, one that could potentially lead the faithful astray by placing them at the precipice of divine comprehension. To unfurl the secrets of the cosmos too rapidly, too freely, was to risk shattering the delicate balance between what was meant to be known and what was to remain in shadow. Thus, the theological contention lay in the preservation of mystery, a virtue weighed carefully against the chaotic allure of unfettered revelation. The Book of Enoch, in its expulsion, signified a turning away from an unguarded exegesis into the shelter of an established common creed, one less burdened by cosmic rebellion and more attuned to earthly understanding. In this act of exclusion, we see fear intermingled with prudence, a fear of ideas unfurled too soon, too wildly to be safely tethered. The dark allure of the Book of Enoch remains a silent echo of humanity's ceaseless quest to grasp the divine. In its absence from the canon, it reminds us of the shadows where light cannot reach, the mysteries humanity must be content to admire from afar, lest we too become burnt by the flame of too much, too soon. In the dim corridors of human understanding, where the familiar meets the arcane, lies the deliberate omission of the Book of Enoch from the biblical canon. The script is ancient, its narrative as potent as nightshade, weaving tales of celestial rebellion and the mingling of otherworldly creatures with the daughters of men. Prophecies, too, hang within its pages, heavy with visions of an end unfathomable to mortal minds. This act of exclusion is not merely a redaction, but a tacit acknowledgment of the dangers inherent in unfettered revelations. The council of old, or rather, the architects of our spiritual texts, had to weigh the wisdom of the ages against the irresistible pull of the unknown. Their decision to banish the Book of Enoch was not an exercise in censorship, but a measured step warranted by both caution and discernment. Consider the story of the Watchers, angels who fell not from grace, but from grandeur, a tale too potent to cohabit the sacred texts with humbler lessons. Their fall was not just a mythic plunge, but a theological chasm that threatened to swallow the doctrine whole, positing a reality where the boundaries between the heavenly and the human were not as impervious as once believed. These themes were, indeed, apocryphal, dancing on a razor's edge between revelation and heresy. Moreover, Enoch's apocalyptic prophecies painted pictures of a universe both vast and ominous, where divine justice meted out in cataclysmic grandeur might bewilder rather than solace. In these words there lay a challenge to orthodoxy, a portrait of destiny inked in strokes, too bold for scriptures meant to guide and comfort the soul. Thus, the Book of Enoch remains a spectre, its presence felt even in its absence, a reminder of humanity's insatiable thirst for the transcendental, a thirst that must be sipped judiciously, lest it consumes us. By leaving Enoch's tale in the shadowlands, the theologians ensured the canonical light remained undimmed, burning steadily in a world ever teetering on the brink of chaos and order. Yet, in doing so, they left a trail for the curious, a breadcrumb path leading to the forgotten, where one might glimpse the divine not as a beacon, but as a distant flame flickering in the night's perpetual embrace. In the whispering corridors of ecclesiastical history, The exclusion of the Book of Enoch from the biblical canon stands as an enigma wrapped in a decision of profound gravity. It was not merely a matter of doctrinal alignment, rather, it was an act of safeguarding the spiritual equilibrium. In a world straining under the weight of its own contradictions, the early church fathers faced a task akin to rolling the dice of destiny, ensuring that the roll would not unleash chaos. The Book of Enoch, with its tales of celestial mysteries and fallen angels, beckoned its readers toward a vista where the divine was both familiar and otherworldly. Its pages, rich with apocalyptic visions, resonated with a disconcerting allure capable of unsettling the tidy tapestry of official doctrine. The fathers of faith, wary of this siren song, sought to prevent a fracture of the burgeoning Christian orthodoxy, lest its fragile peace be shattered by discord. Navigating a path through the tumultuous seas of early Christendom required an anchor. Thus, the canon was to be that anchor, stable, consistent, and limited to those texts that provided clarity rather than enigma. Enoch's narratives, with their enigmatic lore and unverifiable origins, posed a risk of unraveling the nascent theological fabric, stirring speculations rather than reinforcing certainties. In the mystique of Enoch lay a temptation, a challenge to the emerging structure of ecclesiastical authority, a rebellion muffled before it could find its voice. Thus, the exclusion of Enoch from the biblical canon was not merely a strategic omission, it was a defensive maneuver against the proliferation of interpretations that might dilute the concentrated essence of doctrinal truth. In their pursuit of a canon that guided without ambiguity, those early arbiters of the sacred word performed an act of discretion, a calculated restraint in the interest of unity and coherence. Even now, when one encounters the echoes of Enoch's verses, a shadowy dance between the sacred and the profane, one cannot help but ponder if his removal from the canon was less an erasure and more a vigilant guardianship over the collective conscience. In relegating Enoch to the periphery, they curated a narrative not of censorship, but of salvation, a salvation from confusion amid a world already poised precariously between creation and annihilation. And so the flame flickers on, a distant reminder of Enoch's forgotten whispers, a testament to the enduring tension between mystery and revelation, a tension that, while unresolved, holds within it the fragile balance of faith itself. In the unlit corridors of theological history, the Book of Enoch wanders like a spectre, shadowy, elusive, and laden with the weight of its own enigmatic truths. Its exclusion from the Bible's canon is no mere casualty of clerical oversight, but a calculated act of preservation. Enoch's narratives defy simplistic understanding, offering visions of heavenly realms and angelic hierarchies that dance on the edge of orthodoxy. They beg questions more than they impart answers, stirring the pot of dogma with disruptive vigor. The Jewish rabbinic authorities, acting as stewards of tradition, deemed Enoch an intruder in a temple of clarity, his verses a discordant note in a symphony of divine law. This wariness crossed into Christianity, where the early church fathers debated its merit, like a jury deliberating the fate of an ambiguous defendant. While voices like Irenaeus and Tertullian ventured approval, the tide of ecclesiastical opinion leaned towards caution. The embryo of Christian scripture demanded unity, and in Enoch's cryptic lineage they smelled the scent of division. Enoch spoke of watchers, angels cast from grace, and a cosmos scripted by clandestine forces. Such concepts, bathed in the chiaroscuro of apocryphal light, bordered on the heretical. They challenged the established narrative, disrupting theological equilibrium with tales of cosmic interplay spanning realms untold. Seen through the veil of history, doubts about its authenticity and murmurations of obscure origins only served to fuel the ecclesiastic fire of reprobation. In leaving Enoch's visions in the shadows, the arbiters of faith charted a course for stability, a compass pointing away from potential schism. Their decision was not one of mere exclusion, but of protective strategy, a move to safeguard the collective soul from the chaos of narrative permissiveness. Enoch endures, not as a silenced voice, but as an echo, reverberating through the halls of obscured wisdom. In this estranged status, it embodies the eternal dance between the revealed and the hidden, a dance that treads the fine line between faith's illumination and its inevitable engulfment by mystery. Through Enoch, we are reminded of the delicate balancing act between understanding and the ineffable, an act that anchors belief even as it reaches towards the infinite. The Book of Enoch, a relic from an era where mysticism intertwined with early doctrinal formulations, stands as a testament to the tensions between orthodoxy and esotericism. This ancient text, attributed to the enigmatic patriarch Enoch, finds itself exiled from the canonical embrace of the Bible, yet its essence lingers, offering a shadowed glimpse into the complexities of faith's evolution. Scholars, with their relentless quest for clarity amidst obscurity, often argue that Enoch was banned for reasons both theological and historical. The book delves into themes of celestial hierarchies, angelic revelations, and apocalyptic visions, narratives that, while captivating, transcended what the early architects of Christianity deemed suitable for the spiritual diet of its adherents. Its vivid portrayal of fallen angels and their interactions with humanity teetered on the edge of orthodoxy, threatening to unravel the more contained and unified theology sought by the nascent church. Furthermore, Enoch's exclusion can be viewed through the lens of a church striving for a cohesive identity. In an age when uniformity was a bastion against fragmentation, texts that diverged into elaborate cosmologies risked sowing discord. The book's speculative nature, though teeming with metaphysical insights, posed the peril of speculative distraction, a divergence from the central narrative of salvation history which the early church curated with meticulous care. Moreover, the cultural and linguistic journeys of the Book of Enoch, finding refuge primarily in the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, highlight another dimension of its exclusion. Geographic and cultural boundaries influenced what was deemed canonically viable. This reveals a broader dialogue about the interactions between central religious authority and diverse interpretative communities. As we peer into the scholarly discourse surrounding Enoch, it's clear that the text's banishment underscores the fragile equilibrium between doctrinal purity and the expansive allure of mystical thought. It stands as a perpetual challenge, a reminder of the struggle to define the boundaries of sacred tradition while acknowledging the inexorable pull of the unknown. In this intricate dance with Enoch, we witness the perpetual negotiation between the historical and the transcendent. The book's absence from the Bible does not silence it, but rather amplifies its spectral commentary on the nature of belief. In every omitted line, there lies a question posed to the faithful. Where does enlightenment end, and the journey into mystery begin? The scholars, much like the guardians of orthodoxy before them, continue to grapple with this question, casting their deductions into the vast, echoing chasm of divine enigma. The absence of the Book of Enoch from the Bible is a testament not to its irrelevance, but to its enduring aura of forbidden knowledge. In an age marked by perpetual negotiation between the historical and the transcendent, the omission of this enigmatic text serves not as a closure, but as a portal into the unfathomable depths of early Jewish thought. The Book of Enoch breathes within the shadows of the canon, its voice a spectral whisper that echoes through the corridors of time, inviting scholars and seekers alike to contemplate the outer boundaries of belief and revelation. In its manifold visions and intricate symbolism, the Book of Enoch unfurls a tapestry woven with apocalyptic themes, an essential precursor to the eschatological narratives that echo throughout the New Testament. Like a nocturnal vigil, it stands as a sentinel over the threshold of orthodoxy, daring to illuminate the darkened paths of angelic rebellions, divine judgments, and the cosmic struggle between good and evil. Modern scholars, those detectives of the divine, find in its passages a mirror reflecting the thoughts and fears of an ancient world. Here, they say, is the unchronicled dialogue between man and the divine, a dialogue that challenges the boundaries set by later doctrinal orthodoxy. The book's absence from the canonical collection does not diminish its authority. Rather, it amplifies its power to question, prod, and provoke. Thus, the Book of Enoch remains, paradoxically, more than the silent shadow it appears to be. Its spectral commentary on the nuances of existence compels the faithful to ask profound questions. Where does the dim glow of enlightenment end, and where does the deeper, darker journey into mystery begin? Here, in these omitted lines, lies an invitation, a summons to traverse the chasm that separates the known from the unknown, to grapple with the divine enigma from which no true student of faith can turn away. This is the allure of the uncanonized scripture, that each page not bound in the hallowed covers of the Bible remains a haunting reminder. It calls upon the present guardians of belief, the scholars of our age, to cast their deductions into that ever-vast and echoing expanse, where logic meets the divine, and where the journey into mystery is, perhaps, the greatest enlightenment of all. In the shadow-laden corridors of theology, where history and faith intertwine like the smoke from a smoldering cigarette, there lies a volume that never found its home between the sanctified pages of the Bible, the Book of Enoch, an enigmatic manuscript cast aside like a whisper in the dark, challenges us to reconsider the boundaries of divine inspiration and canonical jurisdiction. The allure of the Book of Enoch is not simply in its absence from the official narrative, but in the questions it provokes, questions that still beg for answers under the dim light of the scholar's lamp. Why was this apocryphal tome, filled with celestial dramas and primordial battles, left to wander the margins of biblical history? The logic behind its exclusion, thick with politics, doctrinal contention, and historical context, has become as much a part of its mystique as the text itself. In today's world, where belief and skepticism dance their eternal tango, the significance of the Book of Enoch reemerges, pulsing with an urgency that belies its ancient origin. It beckons to modern theologians, archaeologists, and seekers of truth, urging them to grapple with not just the words within, but the shadows cast by its very exclusion. To understand Enoch's relevance now, we must dissect the anatomy of its narrative, a tale of watchers and heavenly hosts, of rebellion and redemption. Such stories, though dismissed by the ecclesiastical juries of antiquity, resonate with a contemporary society that is itself in search of meaning amidst chaos. In a world where certainties crumble faster than they are built, texts like the Book of Enoch offer alternative perspectives that challenge the rigidity of orthodoxy. Perhaps it is the text's audacity to explore the celestial with as much fervor as the earthly that frightens the keepers of conventional wisdom. Yet, in the chambers of modern academia, where daring inquiry is seen as a virtue, the Book of Enoch finds champions who see in its lines not just heresy, but potential to expand the conversation about what constitutes sacredness and who decides its boundaries. The modern significance of Enoch, then, lies at the confluence of existential inquiry and divine exploration. It is a relic of mystery for a time that craves certainty, yet fears it just as deeply. By digging into the soil around this ancient text, we are not merely unearthing words, but allowing a new dialogue between the seen and unseen, the known and unknown, to take root. In this dialogue, the Book of Enoch stands as a testament to the enduring power of narrative to transcend its earthly banishment, proving that enlightenment, like shadow, can never be wholly suppressed, only transformed and, perhaps, when the hour is late and the night is long, embraced. In the flickering shadows cast by dim streetlights, the Book of Enoch lingers, a testament to the whispers of a world that balances on the precipice of myth and history. Its exile from the Bible is a mystery wrapped in riddles, a reminder of the fragile, often arbitrary nature of canonization. This text, while shrouded in the penumbra of orthodoxy's rejection, finds a home in the hearts and minds of those unafraid to embrace the depth of its vision. To the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Book of Enoch is more than an apocryphal relic. It's a living dialogue with the divine. It's a lens through which we peer into the murky depths of a spiritual tradition that existed long before the ink dried on the New Testament. For scholars, it's a map of religious mindscapes, tracing the evolution of beliefs that molded the contours of an ancient faith. As pensive theologians and historians pick at its seams, the text speaks of angels and watchers, of cosmic battles and celestial hierarchies. It whispers secrets of the universe that kindle the imagination as they unsettle the known order. The Book of Enoch is a ghost, a shade in the alleyways of scriptural history, both haunting and enlightening those who dare cross its path. The enigmatic nature of its canonization, or lack thereof, calls into question the very essence of divine inspiration and authority. Who decides what is sacred? What stories should guide humanity's moral compass, and which should remain in the half-light of obscurity? In those unanswered questions lies the allure of the text for those tormented by curiosity and the siren call of the unknown. In the end, the Book of Enoch reminds us that narratives, like shadows, wear many faces. Embraced by some, shunned by others, its voice remains a whisper in the dark, declaring that exclusion from orthodoxy is never truly the end. Instead, it offers an eternal dialogue, a reminder that the night is rich with stories waiting to be told. As the moon rides high in a cloud-laden sky, we are left to ponder whether the light that dances in the darkness is a herald or a spectre, and whether it matters at all in the unending search for truth.